Hi. Hi, welcome to East L.A. Music Stories. My guest today is Bobby Rodriguez, trumpet player extraordinaire, and there's a lot more we're going to get into. Uh, Hi, Bobby, how you doing?
One more good day, Mark. I'm happy to be here with you and happy to be alive.
Ditto. You say that it's snowing in Yucaipa?
Right this minute, I'm looking out my window and it started snowing about 20 minutes ago, which it does in Yucaipa about every 3 or 4 years. And this day is the day that it snows. So we'll,
Amazing.
we'll get a little bit of snow and then it'll sort of disappear
You're
by
only you're only about
tomorrow.
45 minutes from me, but yet I'm around sea level here in the Coachella Valley, and
Hmm.
ain't snowing here. But it was raining this morning. Anyway, I want to address one thing before we get going, and that is that I lost a tooth.
Oh,
See that?
yeah,
I look like a picket fence. I
yeah.
figured if I don't say something, people are going to say, "What's going on with that?" And they're going to just.
Oh,
So yeah, it was kind of a chipped tooth, and I bit on something hard, and it just came out. So I've got a dental appointment coming up, and probably in a month or so it'll be okay. But in the meantime, I'm toothless. What can I
well,
say?
you have a window to the world.
That's right. Get a nice breeze too.
Good. Yeah, it's
So
different.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, so you were part of that legendary Salesian band led by Bill Taggart
Yes,
in the
sir.
60s, and plenty of great musicians came out of there.
Hmm.
How did you wind up there? What got you into trumpet? What got you into music?
Well, I was 8 years old and I saw a trumpet player on television, and that image and the sound just captivated me. And I guess even as a little kid, 4 or 5 years old, I always kept wondering, what am I good at? And when I saw that, I said, I can be good at that. I didn't know anything about how it works or how anything, would have to develop. But I did take up the trumpet because in our little school of Our Lady of Lourdes Elementary School, Bill Taggart was a teacher, and there was an opportunity for me to take up the trumpet. And so I went to the trumpet, audition or class or whatever it was, and fine, I got in $5 a lesson and $5 to rent the trumpet. So $10 a month. And, that was more than nothing because my mom was a single mom. And, it's $10 extra. But she saw that I took to it and then eventually bought a little trumpet, $100 for a trumpet. And then, I practiced, practiced, practiced. And so here I am today, the most famous, not famous guy in the world right now, right here, right
Are you
with you.
saying are you saying that Bill Taggart was at Lady of Lourdes before he was at Salesian? Salesian?
Yes, that's correct. He
I
was
didn't know
at Our
that.
Lady of Lourdes for probably 7, 8 years, I'm guessing, teaching there. And he developed a great little elementary school band. And he brought in all kids from the surrounding diocese, Guadalupe, and other kids. If they would show up, he would allow them to come in. I mean, it's all gravy to him in terms of bodies and rentals and payments for the lessons. So it worked for him. It worked for us. Many, many, many young kids got an opportunity to touch music, and he was very dedicated to music and very inspirational to all of us that we wanted to, get better and move forward and be somebody.
Yeah.
So that's what I continued with, and actually, I still am.
So tell me about the Salesian band. Now, Salesian was a Catholic school, right?
Yes, and so was Our Lady of Lourdes
Of
Elementary
course.
School.
Yeah, well, Our Lady, that would kind of be a hint, yes.
Yep.
But that wasn't too far from my house. I lived on McDonald Avenue near 3rd Street,
Ah,
and it was
okay,
not too far from there. I remember.
okay.
Well, there used to be
Yep.
dances there too.
Yeah, they had big dances. It was just a little bit before my time, but I
That was the
always
Armenta brothers and all that.
remember the Armenta brothers. I went to school with one of the last little brothers, and I can't remember his first name, but nice fellow. And then I realized his family were musicians, and all that was good. Um, so moving from Our Lady of Lourdes from the 8th grade into Salesian High School, well, I had a little stop. I went to Cantwell High School
I remember,
first.
yeah,
I
in
went
Montebello.
there and found the band to be like one violin and a guitar player. And that was the band. And it was terrible. And so we said, no, got to get out of here. So I walked off the campus, took the bus to Salesian High School,
Wow.
and went right to the office and said, I want to come here. And then, they checked with my mom and they checked with Mr. Taggart, Prof. We used to call him Prof. And they said, cool, great, let's go, come on in. So I think the next week I just started school at Salesian. So I guess I went to Cantwell for 1 quarter or something like that, but I don't really count that. Yeah. I
So
went to
tell me,
Salesian, and
so,
it was a good situation.
so tell me about the band at Salesian and who was in it, and tell me about it.
Well, I don't remember too much about the personnel
Really?
except Bobby Loya. Bobby Loya was always 1 year ahead of me, and his brother, Tony Garcia, who was, I think, like 4 years older than him.
Sax player.
Yes, yeah. And Bobby was a tremendous trumpeter then, as he is now. He's still playing and doing wonderful. And so I always have idolized him to some extent, and he's fantastic.
I believe he was in the Blue Satins back in the 60s. Then later he was in,
Bobby was way ahead of his time. I mean, he was playing at the highest level in those days as a young, 14, 15-year-old. And he was taller, so he looked a little older, and always a good friend, still is a good friend. I spoke with him a while back, and he's doing well.
he went on to
And
play with other Midnighters and probably Tierra too.
yeah, well, I handed him the gig with Tierra because I played with them first, and then I handed it to him
Mhm.
because those two brothers just wouldn't stop fighting,
Right, right.
and I had just come off the road for 4 years with the brothers Johnson, and those two brothers never stopped fighting, and it was like, I don't want any part of this.
Brothers tend to do that. The Everly Brothers
And
sometimes
no,
being my
it's like,
brother.
what's up with that? What?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have a brother close to my age, so I never had that issue.
Mhm.
But
Well, didn't like
things go
Romeo
on.
Prado go there from the Midnighters? Romeo Prado and
Romeo went there. Willie G went there. Little Ray went there for a while. Um, I mean, a lot of people went through Salesian High School, and I think a lot of people were influenced by the music concept there, because they had no football team per se of any value or sports, but
right.
had a band.
Well,
And
wasn't Romeo in the band, but maybe not at the same time you were?
no, not with me. He was older than me,
Mhm.
so I never saw him as a contemporary student.
Right.
He must have been at least 5 years older.
I
So
got
when
it.
I got there, he was already gone.
Well, Little Ray wound
And
up going to Garfield. I remember having gym class with him, and he wound up at Garfield.
he was a good athlete all the way around.
Really, and a hell of a singer
Yeah,
and performer.
had good moves, good speed. He was, I always liked Little Ray.
He used it on stage too, all that speed and
He was great. I mean, he was great. He should have been one of the great ones from East L.A. Him, just like Willie G.
Well, he was, but that's a whole other issue about the music business and racism and thinking that we're just a regional phenomenon. It's very complicated, but a lot of people didn't get their due. But he's a legend nonetheless, and he made his mark. Made a
I
lot of
think
great
so.
records.
I think so.
So what happened after? So you were in a lot of East LA bands in the
Oh,
60s.
yes.
I think the Etalons, which came out of
Yeah,
Salesian.
basically all of them. As soon as I got to high school, I remember being across the street from the school at the White Spot, and it was a little hamburger stand there. And as I was crossing the street, this guy comes up to me who's a senior. His name is George Romero. He goes, "Hey, the band I manage is looking for a trumpet player. Are you interested?" Well, who is that? Well, it's the Counts. And
Remember
I
that?
said, okay, cool. And so went to rehearsal, and then uh, Joe Vasquez was in the band, and I knew Joe from I don't know where, but I knew him. He was a sax player, and we were old friends. And so we used to rehearse at his house, and we started playing and doing parties and all the things you do. And I was in the Counts, I don't know, let's say a couple of years.
Was that your first band?
The first, hmm,
Was that before the
I don't
Etalons?
know. I don't know. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, okay. Well, who
But
are some of the members? Do you remember? Was Don Verray in there? And who
Don
was in
Verray
that?
is an old friend. Yeah, I introduced him to his wife because his wife was the best friend of my sister.
Mhm.
And so they hooked up and they're still together. And Don is still a lovely, lovely person. And Kathy, of course, uh, lovely person. So they were there. I want to say Johnny Joe was the bass player. I don't remember.
Ramos.
Is that his name?
Yeah,
Ramos?
I played with him in the Emeralds later on, like in 1971. Great bass
Yeah,
player.
he was a nice guy.
Funny guy too.
I
Funny guy.
liked him. I liked him a lot. He was a good cat. Who was it? Was it Ronnie Wheat
Yeah,
on
drummer.
drums, I
Yeah,
think?
drummer, yeah.
Yeah, Ronnie Wheat. Uh, I think Arnold was on organ, Farfisa organ. Um, and he was another, nice cat. And let's see, guitars. Bobby Garola.
Oh, of course.
And we had another guitar player.
Well, do you remember, were you in the band when the Japanese American guy, his last name was Mutsunaga or something? They had
No,
a Japanese American guitar player. That must have been
no.
after you.
Yeah, maybe. No, but no, I don't remember him. But they had two guitars,
Hmm.
one lead, and then Bobby Garola was the rhythm guitar player, which was common in those days. And then Joe Vasquez and myself. Joe played saxophone, and of course I played trumpet. And we went on. I mean, I think we went on for a while, like a couple of years,
Good
and then
band,
it was fine. Charlie Montijo was the singer,
right?
and Harpo was a backup singer. And where these guys are today, I don't know. But
Did you make the record with them? I know they made at least 145.
yeah, I did. I play a solo on that record. That's my very first recording.
Remember what it was called?
I'm trying to remember the melody, but I'm thinking maybe there's a different song. But anyway, yes, I was recording. That's my first recording and my first solo ever. And I learned how to solo by um, Bobby Brambilla of the
Enchantments.
Enchantments, saying he turned to me and said, "Take it."
That was it.
I said,
Take what?
"I guess you just play notes that are in the song, I guess." And so I did that, and the rest is history. So
Wow.
yeah, so
So
I
you
don't
later
know.
played in the Enchantments, right?
Yeah, then the Counts. I don't know what happened there, but then they that moved on, and then I played in the Enchantments with Bobby Brambilla, and Bobby Espinoza was in that band, the organ player.
Hmm.
And we became very good friends. We used to stay over at each other's house, and I mean, that kind of friendship. And he was always, again, just a sweetheart cat, great guy. And we tried to grow up together when we had this double date thing going, and of course that didn't work. So we came back the same young men as we were attempting to grow into manhood. Well, we ended up being the same lonely guys when we finished the date. And Bobby was wonderful, and his brother Henry, who also was an organ player, he was about 7, 8, 9 years older, and so he was already a mature young man. And Bobby was great. The Enchantments. Bobby was still playing electric, like what's the name of that little piano you used to hook up the legs on?
Wurlitzer?
Yes, Wurlitzer.
Love
That's
those.
it. And so, who else was in that band? I don't remember. Piano, bass, drums. I don't know. Bobby
What about Eddie
Brambilla.
Serrano, lead singer? Was Eddie lead singer?
No, no, no. But he might have been somewhere in that mix because I do remember Eddie, and I always liked Eddie. I always thought he was a suave, kind of guy, and I always liked him. You know, musically, I don't know. At that early age, I mean, you just take to personalities, and
Right.
and you assume if the guy's a singer, then he sings, and he's cool.
He was good.
He was good. I remember Eddie. He was
And they
good.
made some records. Did you make any records with them? They had
No, no, I never made anything with them. I didn't know about Bobby's connection to Art Brambilla. I didn't know any of that till much later. So I don't know. After that, I mean, there's the Imperials. The Etalons came through Salesian High School. The Impalas.
Let's talk about the Impalas. Ron Reyes, was he in the group, the guitar?
Yeah, Ronnie played guitar.
Mhm.
Real good guitar.
Yes.
And they had a baritone player. I forget. I don't know what his name is, but I think he was a Salesian alumni as well.
Now, was the lead singer Al Anaya?
Yes, Al. Curly hair, blonde. Yeah, Al was really a nice fellow. I liked him a lot. Yeah, Al was nice.
He later sang with the Midnighters for in the early 70s, I believe.
Okay, who hasn't sung with him?
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Okay, I mean,
you haven't, I haven't. But other than that,
I haven't. That's right. I think I'm taking over that job.
Okay.
But to fill up Little Willie G's shoes,
yes.
That's an incredible space right there. Excuse me, because Willie identified,
Well, it's like trying to replace Mick Jagger and the Stones with another singer.
He put a stamp on that band. Yeah. And as long as Romeo was there to make the arrangement behind him,
mm-hmm.
and Romeo certainly was the musical director of the band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were fabulous. The Midnighters were very special.
The most popular band in town, for sure.
They were very special. And I mean, I would be in the audience watching them play. If they were going to play before us or after us or something like that, and just the excitement, the intensity.
I saw them in '64 at San Alfonso Auditorium when they had Little Willie G and Little Ray in the band at the same time.
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
Yeah, they didn't get along together. They didn't work.
But they sang great.
But it was a great pairing of power.
Yeah.
And Little Ray, I mean, he had such a beautiful voice for that era, and Willie, of course, was perfect in that role as the lead singer. Yeah. It was really great. I mean,
they had different styles. Willie was more, he could do the R&B stuff and all that, but he was like a crooner a la Sinatra or Johnny Mathis. And Little Ray was like could be like Ray, a soul singer or Stevie Wonder or
Ray was a very interesting guy.
Or Smokey Robinson. He could do all that stuff and jump around like Jackie Wilson and sound like Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. I remember. Ray was
dynamic
good
performer.
If he tried to do one of those splits today, he'd probably break a hip.
Oh, at the very least.
But wouldn't we all?
Yeah. So that was the whole the 60s, basically, the early 60s, and now into the late 60s. What was happening with you?
Late 60s, got out of Salesian High School, couldn't wait to get out of school. Hated school, always hated school. Went on to Career Academy, which was a broadcasting school. I had a concept there that the musicians would come to me for interviews on the radio, if I could get on the radio. And Lord knows I got on the radio. I got a call to come audition and become a disc jockey on KBCA 105.1, which was the #1 jazz station, well, maybe in the world at that time. And so I got the gig, and I started there in right after high school.
Wow.
And it was a great experience, a wonderful experience, talking to a microphone on the 9th floor of this building on La Jolla Avenue off Wilshire. And, it took me out of my East L.A. Hubbard Street house. Well, we were already in Montebello by then. But just to be in the presence of a great city and to see it and to experience it, it was a wonderful year. Then I got drafted. So I got drafted in 70, 71, something like that. And I was about to sign a little contract with Dick Bach of Pacific Jazz Records. And not before being refused 6 months before, So, kept persevering, and the Army called. So I went, of course. I mean, what am I going to do? Say no? No.
How many
So
years?
I went to the service for 3 years. Spent 1 year in Fort Lee, Virginia, right outside Richmond, and then 2 years in a little city called Fulda in Germany.
Mhm.
And I abs- I liked it. It was sort of good. The discipline, the overwhelming power of the military service, and every day I'm grateful.
Were you
I'm
in the
looking
band?
right.
Were you in the band of some kind?
Eventually, I
Military?
got into the band. Yes, yeah, I got into the band, and one of my biggest jobs in the band was to play taps at funerals.
Oh my God.
And so I got a very special feeling in my heart about how to approach that kind of moment, because I remember being at a gravesite, behind a tree someplace, and this old person, would be about to be buried.
Mhm.
And I thought how sad it is that this old guy, who was probably around 75 or 80, had like three friends there.
Mhm.
Well, as I'm growing older, I'm 71 now, which is hard to believe in my own mind, but
Yeah, me too. It goes like
you are what
faster
you
than we ever
are.
dreamed. It goes faster than we ever dreamed, right?
to to imagine this person living a whole life and having three people at his funeral.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there's only three people because all his friends are gone. So I
Right.
understand, and so I would play taps, and I learned something. I learned how to be that sensitive
Uh-huh.
to something so simple as a
Yes.
little song like that.
A lot of soul into it. By the way, before we leave the 60s in East LA, I wanted to discuss the East LA, the Salesian rock and roll shows.
Oh yeah,
Did you play in several of those?
yes I did. Yes I did.
Tell me some of the memories you have of them and who you
Well, the
played
funny
with.
part is, I don't know if Prof. Mr. Taggart got the idea from me or if I got the idea from him. I don't know.
Oh,
Because at the same time as he was starting the rock and roll shows at Our Lady of Lourdes Elementary School in the auditorium, I had also organized rock and roll shows in that same auditorium
oh,
and charged like 15 cents or a quart or something like that for the girls from all the different schools to come out. I think we made flyers and blah blah blah. So honestly, I don't know if he got it from me or I got it from him, but it
oh,
doesn't matter.
yeah.
The ultimate is that rock and roll show from Our Lady of Lourdes Elementary School auditorium moved over to East LA College, and to play in that auditorium with a rising stage and
Right.
come up, in an audience of 2,000 screaming young girls
Big time.
was amazing. And I played there just a couple of months back for Rudy Salas's memorial,
I was there.
and I was on stage and thinking about what is it, 50, 55 years ago, and the backstage had not changed an absolute lick, nothing. The paint is still on the wall where I carved my name, Bobby and Diana. It's it's still
Really?
there. No, 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 no.
Oh.
But she was, well, anyway. So it hadn't changed a lick. The stage itself felt the same. It's so interesting.
Yeah,
That's a
let me mention
wonderful
this.
auditorium.
Several years ago, I took a tour of a lot of the venues we used to play, and I was able to get into a few of them. And I got into St. Alphonsus Auditorium, and it was identical. I mean, the
Hmm.
floor, the stage, like exactly the same. The CYO Hall on Brooklyn, which is now Cesar Chavez, exactly the same. The stage is all worn, and but it's just like it was. At least it was last time I was there.
Right.
Little Union Hall was the same. Montebello Ballroom was the same, except it turned into a Spanish language venue, musical venue. But they had an upper stage there too, and a lower stage. And that upper stage was there, but it was a storage place. But some of these places haven't changed. It's amazing. I haven't been to the Big Union. Did you play at the Big Union on
Yes.
49th? That big,
Yes.
long stage, long, skinny stage.
Yes. Yes. I mean, where had we not played? I mean, Roger Young, Kennedy Hall ultimately sort of came into popularity.
Huntington Park Ballroom,
Huntington
Almani
Park.
Community Center. I don't know if you played there.
there's a lot of places, man, and lot of people made money. You know, you could think of all those bodies that came
You
in and
remember
all
how
the
much we got
quotas.
paid? How much did
No,
it seemed like a lot more, but I think maybe we probably got what, like $10 a piece or something like that.
yeah. Oh,
Which was a lot then and for teenagers,
yeah.
you know.
But even back then, we're musicians are taken advantage of all
Of
the
course.
time.
To this day.
Even yeah, absolutely to this day. I mean, royalties and everything else. Oh, it stopped snowing now. Hey,
Oh,
great.
good. Hey.
Um,
And on the club
so
level, somebody brought this up to me, like what musicians got paid in the, say, the 80s, they're still getting now, regardless of inflation. You know
it's
what I mean? It's like,
unbelievable.
what?
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable because the musician is so interested in performance and they want that interaction with an audience. And so it's difficult for us to be um, business heads
Yeah.
when we really should. And
Well,
there should
we're
be some
dreamers, we're artists and dreamers, and
yeah.
most musicians are not good businessmen, including myself and my dad and most everybody I know. There's a few, but not many.
Well, it's difficult. I remember your daddy when
Mm.
I was maybe 5, 6 years old when he put out the Chipmunk song.
Las Arditas.
Ay, 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 that was so funny, and I loved it. It was I. That's the first time I hooked up, mentally with your dad, Lalo Guerrero, and
Right.
he was brilliant, man. The way he
Yeah. Well, he could write in any style. He could do
yeah, he was great.
rancheras or rock and roll, you name it,
Yeah, he was
including
great.
children's stuff. And
Yes,
I sang
I
on
love
some of those. I sang on some of those squirrels. I was one of the squirrels on many of those records. And my
that.
band
Great,
backed him up on some of them. Yeah, yeah. I was a
great.
squirrel, you know. But
Cool.
yeah, but by the way, speaking of my dad, amazingly, I don't think we ever met during the 60s and 70s. I heard about you at some point, but I don't think we met until the unveiling of my dad's statue out here in Cathedral City
Right.
6 years ago. I don't know exactly how long ago,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
played there. And I remember
Yeah.
being really impressed by your playing. And I walked up to you and I said, "Are you the Chicano Miles Davis? What's going on here?"
One can only hope.
Yeah, right. Holy. Who are your favorite
Um,
trumpet players?
well, the classics: Freddie Hubbard, Lee Morgan, Clifford Brown, Miles. That about covers it right there.
Okay.
Those are the four big ones.
Okay.
And Susan Townsley was a person that hooked me up with
I know
that
her.
performance.
She lives here.
And yeah, she's a wonderful person, straight up, honest. Doesn't pull any punches.
Mhm.
I've known her 20 some years now. Yeah, 20 some years, and wonderful person. Always like to hang with her.
Cool.
She
So getting
helps
back to
study a
getting
lot.
back to the rock and roll shows, are you saying that one of the Lourdes rock and roll shows wound up at East LA, or it didn't get to East LA till Salesian?
I think the first rock and roll show was in 63, 64 when I was a freshman in high school.
I think I was at that one. Is that the one that had Johnny Gamboa
Probably.
and
Yeah.
there was somebody else? There was
Yeah.
really guys.
Johnny was the older echelon of the musicians. Very good friend of the Midnighter group and those guys. And so of course I went to that one or performed in that one. I forget. I've got pictures of some of those
Oh
things
wow.
that there I am on stage, nice delgadito, real skinny, not knowing what the heck I'm doing there, but
We were all Delgadito at one point.
yeah. Oh boy, life is cruel, mijo. That's
Oh,
that's what my mother tells me. Oh, oh, mijo, life is
well,
cruel.
it'll humble
Anyway,
anybody, right? Yeah, okay.
the 1964, I think, was the first one
Yeah.
at East L.A. College, and then
Probably
there
from
was.
Salesian, right? It's probably Salesian.
Well, what do you mean? I'm sorry.
In other words, Salesian organized it, not Lourdes, the first one.
Oh no. Prof organized it. Mr.
Right, but he
Taggart.
was already at Salesian.
I believe so.
I think
I
so.
believe he started at Our Lady of Lourdes, and I think he did one there, and the place was too small.
Yeah.
So then he found East LA College, and moved it there, and the rest is history. He did 3, 4 performances. I have some of the old programs and stuff, and and you can see different people, in their youth and at a meeting or something like that. And
Do you remember what bands you played with in those rock and roll shows at all?
well, it was certainly the Etalons, the Counts, and I'm not sure if the Enchantments were part of that.
Well, I remember seeing them there. I just don't know if you were in them.
Maybe I wasn't part of the band then, but those three groups I think are the ones that I played with.
So there were about four or so that Taggart did, and then the rock and roll shows went on without him, right? Was that it? Without the
I don't know
Salesian?
because
Yeah, oh, yeah, they did.
once he got out of it, it sort of just.
But it did keep going into the early 70s. And then it became Battle of the Bands, but the annual East L.A. College Rock and Roll Show kept going.
Yeah, I don't know because
Yeah.
I was out by the time out of high school. I was drafted, so I went
I
to
see,
the
yeah.
ABCA and then to the Army.
Yeah, right. But it did go. In fact, I played in one. I think it was in 71 as a member of the Emeralds.
Mm,
And it was great,
that was a good band. You
Yeah,
were with
really.
Sammy Garcia,
Sammy Ramos? Yeah, Bones.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
he wasn't in the band when I was in, but I knew him.
he was a good talent.
He played trumpet too. I think he was at the Salesian.
Yes, he did. Yeah, yeah. He was another trumpet player.
Yeah, a lot of trumpet players out of there.
Yeah, a lot of good.
So let's see what else we're going to say. So then, anyway, after the Army, what happened? Something happened with Quincy Jones.
Yeah. What happened? So when
Yeah.
I got out of the Army, I got out 6 months early to go back to school. I never liked school. I always disliked it.
That's amazing.
Even the
Because you
very
wound up,
first.
getting a
I
lot of
know.
school.
You never know what the road is going to take you. My first day of kindergarten, I looked up at my mom because she came to pick me up, and she told me this. She said, the first day of kindergarten, I picked her up from school, and the first thing you said is, call the teacher, tell her I quit. So I didn't like school. School was like boring, and it's like, too cattle call-ish.
Structured.
So, yeah, it didn't interest me at all. Anyway, so after the service, there was a 6-month early out. And so I took it. And so 6 months out was the summertime of whatever year it was, 74, 73. And so I went back to school and I went to Rio Hondo College. And so I started doing my, the classes you have to take, the prerequisites for whatever. And there I met John Prince. He was the jazz band director at that time. Good cat, good musician, good player, played trombone beautifully and bass. So I met him. I did 2 years there, and then it was time to move on and go to another school. Well, at the same time, he moved to Cal State Long Beach. So I went to Cal State Long Beach, and there I was, and there was a bunch of great young players there. Jim Cox, Jay Anderson, Bobby Bryant Jr., the Martin brothers, I don't know, lots of people. Gordon Peak, a lot of nice players there. And so I went 2 years there, and just at the end of my 2 years, which was going to be my diploma, I got the call from Charles Mims, an old friend of mine, and he said, Quincy Jones is auditioning guys to go on the road with him. And I said, well, that's it. Bye, school. Got to go. So I went to the audition. I got the solo trumpet chair through Jerome Richardson. He was the judge. And so I went on the road with Quincy for 6 weeks.
Wow.
We toured, the United States. And it was nice. It was interesting. Quincy is an interesting personality. And then that was over, came home, and I got a phone call from the manager that I had met on the road there of Quincy Jones and this young pop group called the Brothers Johnson. And they said, the brothers would like you to join their band because the trumpet player that's there is leaving because he's going back to school. That was Ray Brown, the fine trumpet player. And so I said, well, sure, let's see what happens. So I went to rehearsal, played, everything was cool. Brothers were fine. Band was smoking, Lewis Johnson. one of the inventors of what we call the funk bass now. He was hot as a firecracker, and the band was good. We had good players and da da da. And so I worked with them for 4 years.
Wow.
And then 4 years, at the end of 4 years, I quit, you're fired, came into the conversation because I was frustrated with it. They were fighting, they were always fighting, and it was things and then they weren't giving us money. God, they were becoming millionaires, and we were just getting, I think we got like 3 or 4 weeks of $700 a week. And they were becoming millionaires, buying houses and buying cars and things. And I was just living at home with my father.
So they had a few hits. I remember them.
They had huge hits. Their first record went gold, and their next 3 went platinum. And so they were making mucho dinero. And, all we wanted was some kind of stability. And that's what the guys asked me to represent them. And so I was the talker, the mouthpiece for the guys. And, because I was a troublemaker. Get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I did 4 years, and we were about to play about to play the Forum, I think, in L.A. And I said, well, I want to do the Forum with you. I was talking to the management because by this time, the leaders, the brothers, weren't even involved. It was all management and, high power, blah, blah. I said, well, I'll do the Forum with you, and then I'm going to leave the band. I quit. And the management said, well, why don't you just quit now?
Right.
Oh, I said, I can't believe that I'm hearing that they don't want the best they've got to be presented in their home city.
Right.
And they said, well, why don't you just quit now? Okay. Little did I know that they were already rehearsing another horn section from New Orleans, somewhere else or somehow, I don't know, whatever it was.
Yeah. Underhanded stuff.
Yeah, but it was over. And so when that finished, I felt completely demoralized, wiped out, less than. My chops were hurting from not doing the right things because I never really had trumpet lessons as a youth. I just, Mr. Tiger used to say, okay, put it like this, blow, and there's your sound. Well, there's a lot more to it than that. It's a lot more mental, and you got to, develop something. So I started taking lessons. I became more serious as a musician, but I also feel that I missed 15 years of training at the beginning of my musical life, like high school into college. Right there is when you should be, at Berklee School of Music at that time when they had a lot of horns. Now it's a rhythm section school, but little did I know. So I've always been playing catch up, but I've always been practicing. I've always been steady, just continuing my growth. And that's, what I want to do every day is just continue to grow.
I know a sax player that played for years and years and years and years. And recently he goes, I just realized I've been playing wrong my whole life,
Yeah.
When he played his mouthpiece.
Yeah.
Nobody ever told him.
It's treacherous. And, we come from a place where you talk about, third world mentality. That's where we come from, a lot of us. And, when you say, hey, Mom, I want to be a trumpet player, the first thing my mother said when I wanted to play, she said, no. And it took me almost 2 years before she would say yes. Mm-hmm. When I finally was able to get a trumpet in my hand and the little book that says, this is a G and this is an F and this is how you finger. And so it took me a long time to convince my mom that I would, persevere and not just have her waste $10 a month.
Well, most parents wanted the kids to have like a regular job, whether it was UPS or whatever, something secure.
Yeah.
Nothing's really secure, as we know. But, yeah. Didn't you play with Ray Charles at a point?
Yep. After I came back from the brothers, I started playing in the Latin bands. Johnny Martinez, Johnny Nelson, Azuquita, Mazacote, cumbia bands. I mean, I played with every little, jive little group that I could, because by this time I was married, had a little child on the way, and I had a big mortgage, $700 a month.
Ooh.
I wish I had that now
Yeah.
because that's not very much. But anyway, uh, just trying to make ends meet, and it was every night it was a $75 gig at Quiet Cannon or Pantera Rosa or some little place around somewhere. Eagle Rock. What was that place in Eagle Rock?
Kabukis?
Boom, Kabuki's. That place too, packed. Place was packed, and you'd walk away with $75. Anyway, so I was trying to pick up anything I could just to keep the frijoles hot, so to speak. And then a call came in about Ray Charles, and it was from my old friend. Again, in this business, it's friends call friends. That's what it's all about. So I went to an audition with Ray. And the same time I got the gig with the Brothers Johnson, I had auditioned for Ray Charles, and I got the gig with Ray then in 1975 or 6. But I told him, no, Ray, I can't go with you because I'm already committed to Quincy and blah, blah, blah. So, 10 years later, whatever it was, I go do the audition again. And he said, I would like you to play in the band. And I said, great, wonderful. And I don't think I did an audition, really. I forget. Anyway, they flew me out to Texas, had a beautiful room and a single and a big bed. It was nice hotel. And the first night on the gig, I noticed the guys in the band were all making fun of Ray Charles. And I couldn't believe it because, Ray is Ray. I mean, he's a genius. Just ask him.
Right. He was.
And so I realized what it was all about after a day or two or three. It's a difficult situation because the support team of that organization did not treat the musicians well.
I've heard that.
They treated them poorly.
And did Ray also treat him poorly himself?
Everything starts at the top.
Yeah.
So I spent 3 weeks in the States, and then we flew to France and did 3 weeks in France and Barcelona, Spain or something. And then we came home. And when we came home, one of the girl singers, was going to leave the band, but her luggage didn't come in. So she gave me her ticket. I paid $100 for her ticket. We got into Kennedy Airport. I gave her $100, got her ticket, which I could do at the time, and I took the plane home. Well, another musician was on the plane too, Rudy Johnson, saxophone player, great saxophone player. And so he was quitting the band. I was quitting the band. A week later, he was back on the band. A week later, I was at home. Forget it. I'm sitting at home wondering about, where's my next Latin gig for 50 or $75? Tim Masica, saxophone player, calls me and says, man, there's this ship cruise that's looking for a trumpet player. So he knew about this stuff. I had no idea about cruises, ship cruises. So anyway, I went from the Azure Seas. I did 6 weeks there, got off the boat, and then went on to Princess Cruises. And at that time, I was in the middle of a divorce. My life had basically fallen apart. Still trying to play, still trying to keep it straight. And I got on the ship, and I didn't come off for 4 years.
Wow.
And it was a lot of beautiful travel. Travel the world.
But getting back to Ray Charles, so you're saying you had an audition for him earlier, but didn't take the job because you heard of what was going on, but you wound up joining him later?
No, because I didn't take the job because I was already committed to the Brothers Johnson.
Okay. Well, so later you played with Ray after?
Yeah. And I got the call. I didn't actually audition. I just was asked to do the job. I took the job from Tony Lujan, great young trumpet player from Albuquerque. And so I just put on his pants and coat and, went out and did the gig. And the music was great. And I love Ray Charles. I mean, his singing, forget about it.
Yeah.
There is no other singer for me other than Pavarotti that could match up with Ray Charles. But the whole organization was just It was awful the way that they treated the guys. I mean, I felt like a slave in you know, my value was not to pick cotton but to play notes.
Yeah,
And
right.
it was terrible. It was terrible.
Did you by any chance join the band? When you were in the band, was Herth Martinez in the band? Did you know Herth Martinez?
I knew Hirth, but I don't think he was in the band when I was there.
I
No.
did play with him for about a year. He told me similar stories.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
Herth was not only a great guitar player, but a great songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
Made some great albums and that kind of went under the radar. But I think he's
Yeah.
like an incredible songwriter. He passed away a few years ago, if you know that.
God bless his soul.
Yeah. So then, what got you back into education? You went back to school after you hated kindergarten.
After after the Brothers Johnson, after 4 years of the Princess cruises, I came home and I said, well, because I have my little girl, she was only like 4 or 5 years old. I said, man, I got to take care of this little girl. This is my responsibility. I love this little girl, and let's watch her because there were some issues there between the mother and myself. So I decided time for me to go back to school. It's a loose end, and I don't want any loose ends in my life. I want nice and clean road, honest road. So I went back to school, started picking up the classes that I needed.
Where did you go?
Uh, Cal State Long Beach.
You went
Back to Long Beach, and I actually I love school because it was very interesting and informative. And at that time, I was old enough,
Right.
I was 30 something. It was of interest to me.
That happened to me too. When I went to East L.A. college for 2 years, and I couldn't find anything to do there that I was interested in. Dropped out. 6 years later, I went back to Cal State L.A. and I loved it because then I was old enough to appreciate the knowledge. I found
Yeah.
Chicano studies, and I went and got my degree, and I loved it at that point. You have to be older sometimes to appreciate it.
Well, they say, knowledge is wasted on the youth.
That's right.
Well, it is, but it's not, because you have to get into a rhythm of study and learning, but you have to want to.
Yeah, and you have to find an interesting subject that you love.
Yeah.
I did.
Well, it took a while. I got my first degree, and then a few years later, I met my current wife, Yvonne, and she said, "You want to go back to school? Do it." So I went back to school. I went to USC for a year, and I found the students, very uppity, and it was scary because I knew these kids were smart, and I was a little older. I was already in my 40s, going back to a master's program. Well, I went 1 year there, then I moved over to Cal State L.A., finished my degree at Cal State L.A.
In music?
In music, all in music, performance. And that took me 2.5 years because I took 6 months off in between the two schools. And then as soon as that was over, I said, well, why not just continue? So I looked around, and the degree program I assumed would be a PhD, but because of my master's degree, which was performance, your master's and your doctorate degree have to match. So what do I know? I don't know that. Nobody in my family ever was a doctor of anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized what I had to do. I didn't want to be judged. I was already like 50 years old. I don't want to be judged on my performance. Well, I bit the bullet. I did the audition, and I didn't know this, but at the time there was like 5 people auditioning for the doctoral program at UCLA, and I was already working there as a part-time professor, and I was the one that got the call to become the student, the one student that they were accepting that year. And Jens Lendeman, fine trumpet player, was the teacher, and he brought me in, and we embraced the concept, and he realized who I was and how to handle me, because you're handling a human being, like asking them to do stuff, and he realized I was an adult, not a child. So I did 3 years there, finished my doctorate program, but it's not a PhD, which I
Mhm.
thought it would be.
Mhm.
It's a new kind of degree called a professional degree, which is called a DMA, Doctor of Music,
Nice.
Doctor of Musical Arts. That's the name of that degree.
Mhm.
So 3 years, went through the process, knocked it out. My wife was unbelievably helpful in the papers I had to write and the stuff I had to do. I was introduced to a professor named Malcolm Cole. He was an absolute jewel, and that's another part of the educational process where you meet people that you might be afraid of at first, like I was with this Dr. Cole, but we became very, very good friends when it was all over. And I think about him every day, and especially when I'm writing something, I'm always writing, is there a better way to say that? Is that every sentence says, is there a better way to say
Yeah.
that? And that's another thing I learned from him. And it's been a fantastic ride.
So on your road to this doctorate, you were teaching at various levels of school.
Yeah, I was teaching at UCLA, and I taught at the Los Angeles High School for the Arts, which was the high school inside Cal State LA.
Oh,
I
okay.
did that for 10 years. And then I prayed, to the gods up above to please get me out of this so I could get to a better crop of students that wouldn't fall asleep during band practice.
Mhm.
And so it came to fruition. I moved exactly from June of one year into August or July the next year, teaching at UCLA through Kenny Burrell. And I met Kenny at a memorial for Eddie Harris. And I said, hello, Kenny. His band was coming off stage and I was going on stage. And I said, hello, Kenny, I'm Bobby Rodriguez. He said, I know who you are. Really? Yeah. He's very aware. He's a very smart man. And so we became friends. And I said, if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know, because I'd love to be with you somewhere, somehow. He said, you mean you would like to teach? Yes. I got a call, went over, filled out the paperwork, boom. Started teaching in 2000. I had just come off a Grammy nomination. I'm one of the few in jazz or Latin jazz.
For what
That
record?
my record called Latin Jazz. Oh, uh, wait a minute. Of course, it's the last one. Oh, you mean this one?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, 2000,
Nice.
the same year that Laris was founded. I was right there because I was on the board of Naris. So I've been in a lot of places because I like to move upward and see what the ceiling is up there. And more often than not, it's boring. It's all political, and it actually in it doesn't really mean all that much. So you get an award, you get this, you get that, big deal.
Mhm.
But it's a fun ride. It's interesting to see how the system works. And the biggest problem is that you never know when the ultimate no is going to show up in your life to tell you you can't go there, you can't be that, you can't something. And it breaks your heart. And so things happen, and you just got to pick all the pieces up, super glue them all together, and let's see what happens.
Keep moving forward.
Keep on moving, man. So I've made my own records, I've produced my own, I own my own. I just keep trying to do what I can do. My last CD might be my last CD because oh, you mean this one?
Oh yeah. What's that one called? Freedom?
Yeah, Freedom. And they're all my compositions.
Mhm.
And I just did my own thing. And now there might not be another CD per se, because that's not the way the market has
Oh,
moved. It's
yeah,
moved
I know.
into downloads, and
I
so
know.
that might be, the end of that road.
A lot less
Who
money,
knows?
a lot less money now for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of ups and downs.
one of the first times I heard about you was you had and I had a copy of it. You did an album, something about some Hispanic orchestra. What was it called? You remember that?
HMA.
Yes, I had a copy of that, and that was way back. When was that? In the '80s, or when was that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. We did that. That's a second record. And
What does it
Paul
stand for,
Lopez.
HMA?
Oh, Hispanic Musicians Association.
And did you form that?
No, it was based around Eddie Cano.
Oh, nice.
So Eddie Cano called a few people, and we got together at Casa Rivera in Pico Rivera, and we had a meeting, and we thought, man, we got to help ourselves. There's no way that someone's going to help us and give us some of their pie, because it doesn't work that way. You have to create your own. So we formed an organization, a nonprofit organization, honest with the government and the California, state of California. And so I immediately wanted to start a band, because I figured, you got to start a band. You got to have a product to sell, to showcase. And Eddie was dead set against it. And, Tony Garcia and I, bumped heads like young little rams, looking at the pretty girl. So we bumped heads a lot, but we finally did start a band. And this one was our first record.
I think that's the one I have.
Yeah, this one was a good one.
California Salsa.
Yeah, titled by Paul Lopez. So we brought in, a lot of the older guys that have had the history and the bumps in their careers. I mean, Rudy Macias was there, Blas Vasquez was there. I can't even think of, all the other 50 people. But there's a lot of people involved, and we were all trying to move things forward. And so it was to me, it was always about documentation of the music. So with this record, it's mostly Paul Lopez charts, and that's very important to document. And then this one is a lot of Paul Lopez charts, but more modern in construction. Mm-hmm. Some Billy Mitchell compositions, John Bolivar compositions. And, we took this band on the road.
I know John Bolivar. I think he lives out here now.
Yes. Yeah,
and he's got a couple of brothers that play sax, too.
That's right. That's right. Very talented family.
Small world. And
so we put out one record. It was good. Put out another record. It was good. Well, that's when, K-Jazz was playing music of Southern California. Now, I don't know what they're playing, but, I can't get my record on the radio anymore. So that line is just cut. Mm-hmm. And for so many musicians, it's just, you'll never hear about their name, because they don't play us, but they play their disc jockeys. Anyway.
Okay. So in terms of getting back to East L.A., what was it like growing up in East L.A., and how do you feel about it? And anything else you want to mention about growing up in East L.A.?
East L.A.? Oh, you mean this?
I love your hat.
This East L.A.? Oh, okay.
Not East L.A., baby.
Well, East L.A. was good to me. I learned a lot of stuff there. I learned never to look at a guy in the eye if he looks like a bad boy. I learned if you are walking down the street, you don't cross into his path, you go across the street. Let him walk that way.
And you don't look at his girlfriend.
Oh, no, heck no. No. You learn the rules of the street. And at the highest level, I'm as low as you can be in terms of knowing what the rules of the street are all about. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of people, Quincy Jones is the dude, and, Beyonce and her husband.
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z. I mean, they've got their own, rules of their streets. And Conway, what's his name? Kanye West, yeah. Future ex-president.
Oh, yeah, right.
So we'll see. I mean, all of these people, everybody has stories. everybody has life stories, and we've all learned different rules. And when somebody wants to get down with me, they got to know something. I'm from East L.A.,
Yeah, right.
so nothing scares me, and nothing uh, will make me stop. If I gotta go for it, I'm gonna go for it because I know what go for it means.
Right.
It means all in, all the way in. Do what you have to get in there and come out victorious.
And in that environment, we had this special magical music scene where there was all these bands when rock and roll was still relatively new, and all these teenage venues. It was an incredible thing that just happened, and we happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Well, with the right emotional content, music today bothers me a lot.
Me too.
The problem with the lyric is sick about what they're talking about, especially about talking about women.
Hmm.
And it's so sickening to hear a rapper have an image of women running around and talking about them like they're nothing.
Hmm.
It's sad, and I assume, maybe that's not the right proper word, but it's my assumption that most of these people come from broken homes, and they don't really understand the father and mother need to be balanced. And these homeboys that sit in the corner and hang out and don't do anything but rhyme all day.
Right.
Maybe it's good for them, but it's not good for society.
But even in the overall musical scene, of all the genres, the quality is not where it was in the 60s and 70s. There weren't the geniuses working and the songwriters, and the quality of music was so much better. And a lot of the young people are embracing that era now above their own because they're realizing Beatles, Stones, Dylan, James Brown, Sinatra, it's way better, man.
My students, I just had a conversation of this topic with my students, and they all said the same thing. You're old, Bobby. You're old. You don't understand the new thing.
God.
And I said, okay, I'll shut my mouth and let you do whatever you got to do. And in 25 or 30 years, let's hear what you got to say. Well, I won't hear it because I won't be here probably. But it's been an honor for me to be a musician and to work at my craft and to experience the joy of being at the pinnacle, which is like the Grammy Award, and being grouped with other great musicians. But to be at the Grammy Award also made me realize how superficial it all
Sure.
It all is.
It's all about the joy of the ride and the actual playing and the experiences. That's the gold.
I guess so. I don't know. I mean, as I've gotten older, you get more self-conscious, you get more careful, I think. And, what was exciting at one time is like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I worked with Kenny Burrell for, 13, 18 years over at UCLA. And I could see him, well, NARIS wants to give you a Lifetime Achievement Award. Yeah, okay. All right, fine.
I understand that, yeah.
It's like, doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. There's certain things when you have been there, done that, it's not so exciting anymore.
Yeah.
So
to me, the joy is in the playing. I'm glad to still be performing now, and the joy is playing with other great musicians and
having
experiencing
fun.
Music. Yeah.
Yep, having fun.
Having fun. Yeah.
It's interesting. You never know where life will take you, or how physically, that part of your life will break down, or have bumps, or you've got to heal, and we all go through something.
All part of the process.
Yeah. Well.
So, it's
a pleasure being with you.
Yeah, pleasure, man. So thank you for being on the show. And
absolutely, Mark. Thank you.
We got to have dinner one of these days. Come out here. I'll go out there and break some bread,
Look at that.
Have some tacos.
I'm in.
All right. Okay, man. Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it.
God bless you. Be safe.
Viva East Los, baby.
I loved your daddy, and I can see why you're a chip off the old block, baby.
That's what he called me, so cool.
God bless you.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Okay. Bye bye for now.
All right.